TaxAct knows you probably don't need help filing taxes. But if you get stuck, we have live experts you can talk to. And who knows, you could hit it off and become long-term tax friends, staying up late at night, talking about deductions, refunds, personal exemptions. Heck, you could even fall in love and create a little dependent of your own one day. Or they could just answer your filing questions. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
It's all about that dichotomy, though. It's all about this accent of somebody kind of fudging his wife's kidnapping and just, oh my God, this can happen anyway. You know, the real true story. This can happen anyway.
Yeah.
How they came up? Do you know how they came up with Minnesota as a location?
Well, I mean, they're from there. So that's part of it, and I think they did feel that it hadn't been seen on screen before. But I think as well, I think when they started conceiving of some of these plot ideas, they started to realise this is funnier and more interesting if it's said in one of these accents.
Yeah.
Two fat ladies, it's 58.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. We're joined today by Ned.
Hello.
And Tom.
Hello there.
And as always, Helen.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about the Coen Brothers classic, Fargo. Remember, please visit us online at flixwatcher.tv. Come to our Twitter account, which is FlixWatcherPod, and go to iTunes, subscribe and review.
As always, films reviewed in this podcast were available to stream on Netflix UK at the time of recording. There may be bad language and there may be spoilers. You have been warned. Hello and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Today, me and Kobe are joined by Ned and Tom. If you would like to say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit about the podcasts they might be able to find you on.
Hi, I'm Ned Sedgwick. I am on a couple of podcasts. I do a podcast called Global Pillage, in which we kind of discuss the foibles of humankind with a diverse bunch of comedians. And I also do a podcast with the BBC called Grownup Land, which is about trying and failing at being an adult.
How do you fail at being an adult?
Oh, I do it on a nearly daily basis. I live at home.
You mean with your parents?
Yeah, live at home with my parents. I don't live at home.
That's a Matthew McConaughey film, isn't it? Failure to Launch.
Ooh. I'm like that, except without the looks or the happy ending so far, but fingers crossed. I mean, I was saying earlier, my main source of income is podcasting, which is something that didn't even exist 10 years ago and seems kind of entirely designed for millennials. I absolutely love it though. And I do go to a lot of indie discos, kind of lying to myself about how indie never died.
Well, you live in Camden, so...
I can't avoid them. I mean, I try and go on these trendy house nights, but I physically cannot avoid listening to The Strokes and Arctic Monkeys all night, every night.
And what about yourself, Tom?
Well, I am the producer of Global Pillage and the executive producer of Grownup Land, so I think, Ned, that means I'm your boss.
Yes, it's
so
always...
this should be a relaxing evening for you at any
On
rate.
your best behaviour.
Yeah.
Yes, tell me what you think about Fargo, and oh, mysteriously.
And then I've also recently launched a film podcast called Best Pick. It is me, Jessica Regan and John Dorney, so we're all writers and actors of various kinds, and we've taken the 90 films which have so far won Best Picture at the Academy Awards, put them in a hat, and for each episode we take one out at random, we talk about it, we watch it, we review it, and then at the end of the episode we pick out the episode for next week. So that is on episode 6 at the moment, 6 down, 84 to go.
So what have you picked out of the hat so far?
So far we've seen The Sting, we've seen All Quiet on the Western Front, we've seen Gladiator, nobody enjoyed that. We've seen...
Really? Does that not...
Imagine it's not very... It's not aged well, is it?
No, it's not aged well at all. From Here to Eternity.
Yeah. As parodied in Airplane.
As parodied in
everywhere.
Countless movies, exactly. But it's fascinating how it's like The 7 Year Itch is another example, how one shot has become much more iconic than the rest of the film. A lot of people would recognise that shot, maybe 1 person in 10 if you stop them on the street, which might be an amusing thing to do later, could tell you what film that's from or even who those actors are.
I think I have a knowledge of who's that? Well, I say I have a knowledge of him. The film Battleship Potemkin.
Yes.
I've known about since I was about 8, because in Naked Gun 33 1/3, the opening shots of the Odessa Steppes, which is actually from that film about the Prohibition.
It's from Battleship Potemkin.
No, but then it was copied again. Yeah,
that's right. Yes, it's riffed on. The Brian De Palma riffed on it in The Untouchables.
So it was riffed on in The Untouchables, and my mother always said, "Well, of course, that's from Battleship Potemkin," which is a really good film if anyone ever has kind of a bit of time on their hands and wants to watch a long black and white Ukrainian.
You sold it very well.
Are you a Sergei Eisenstein completist, Ned, or have you only watched Battleship Potemkin?
I love Eisenstein. To my knowledge, I mean, I've seen Battleship Potemkin and I've seen Naked Gun 33 1/3, which I assume he directed as well.
I believe so. Yes, a later work.
And is there any particular film you're looking forward to watching, or are there any blind spots in there that you're looking forward to?
There's a few. We just took this out of the hat, so we haven't watched it yet. But we just got Grand Hotel, which I've never seen.
You're drawing a blank, that
1932, Greta Garbo. It's the one film which Greta Garbo said, "I want to be alone."
Right.
And that's basically all I know about it. Big ensemble cast, 1932, I Want to Be Alone, Here Ends What I Know.
Yeah.
So that'll be really interesting.
Is it a talkie?
Yes, yeah. Every Best Picture winner, apart from the first one, Wings, is a talkie, depending on how you classify the artist.
Yeah. Cool.
It's quite a good adventure-free film, I think.
Yeah.
And doing it slightly out of order as well.
Exactly,
Throw up some surprises.
Around. Yeah. We had 1999 and 2000 as years, not quite consecutively. And it's fascinating what a good year, especially for American film, 1999 is.
So what was 1999?
What a terrible year 2000 is. 1999 is the... I have to re-listen to my own podcast to be sure about this, but it was things like the Talented Mr. Ripley, the Iron Giant, and it was such a good year. I was able to go through other films released that year and create a very plausible list of Best Picture nominees, none of which were actually nominated.
Yeah.
Magnolia, I think, is 1999, the Thomas Anderson film.
That's a brilliant film. I would say that might be the best film of the 90s.
Or possibly the film we're going to be reviewing today.
Yes. So we're talking about Fargo. Tom, you chose Fargo. Can you tell us why you chose?
Tom.
Sorry. I'm looking at Ned and calling him Tom. I apologise.
Well, neither of you actually chose it. So, I mean,
yeah, we should. For full disclosure, we just have Bishop K. Ali, and she's stuck in Uxbridge, which is quite
nowhere near where we are.
No.
Yes.
Tom very kindly ran across, and we will invite you again for a full episode, full double episode, where you get to choose your film. It's great you've watched Fargo, but Ned, you've quote unquote chosen Fargo. So can you tell us why you chose it and what happens in the film?
I chose it because I recently watched the first 2 series of the Fargo TV series, which is on Netflix, and I think it might be the first series outside of A Wire might be my favourite television ever. I think it is scary and funny and genius. And I remember watching Fargo when I was about 15 and enjoying it, thinking it was a great kind of thrillery film and it was kind of cool. And I didn't really, when people talk about it as one of the greats, I don't think I quite got. I loved it, but I didn't. It was an exciting thriller. It was a slightly creepy, slightly kind of disturbing film.
It was nominated for a fair few awards the year it came out, didn't it?
Yeah,
it won a few as well.
It won a few.
And as for a synopsis, should I give a synopsis now? I mean, it's kind of hard to make a synopsis out of in some ways, but then in other ways, it's a very, very simple film. And it's a simpler film than I remember it. It is about someone paying people to kidnap his wife and a police officer trying to find out what happens. Because the kidnapping goes a bit wrong in some ways. Yeah. So they leave a bit of evidence. And that's basically it.
Just DNA everywhere.
Yeah, but that's basically it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I never think of it like that. I think of it as being this kind of weird, atmospheric film with loads of non sequiturs, which it is. And I think I remembered it as being Frances McDormand's film. I forgot she doesn't turn up until the 34th minute of the film. And the film is only an hour and a half. So for a third of the film, you're not even introduced to her, which is crazy.
So it's like 34 minutes of what would be set up, I guess.
Like waiting for Columbo to turn up.
Yeah.
You know what's happened already. Columbo's just going to close out the story.
Actually, the whole Minnesota Nice thing, it's a more apt analogy, I think, than I realised when I said it. The whole Minnesota Nice thing, especially Minnesota, especially when it comes from Francis McDormand, it's similar. There's this charming, very benign, slightly bumbling exterior, which betrays a really sharp forensic brain.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think what Ned's talking about is one of the questions of the film, because it's wearing the clothes of a crime thriller, but really it is about what it is to be nice, what it is to be Minnesota nice. The fact that certainly if you're William H. Macy's character, nice guys often finish last. And then the fact that the people who speak with these charming accents are also capable of brutal slayings and executions for very little provocation.
Would you say, what's William H. Macy's character called? I don't remember.
Jerry Lundegaard.
Jerry Lundegaard. Is he nice though?
This is it.
Yeah.
He seems like the nicest guy. He seems sweet and lovable and affecting, and life has dealt him a poor hand, and the early part of the movie is about not just misfortune but indignity being heaped upon him. He hatches this idea for this great scheme, and his father-in-law just takes it away from him without apology. And so it's important that you empathise with him while at the same time being aware what he's doing is morally bankrupt. And it doesn't matter how many times he says no one's going to get hurt, this was supposed to be a no rough stuff type deal. This is a terrible, terrible thing to do. And so I remember when I first saw it being incredibly struck by how carelessly his wife is killed. It's like she doesn't even register as human to these two men. And he did that. He made that happen. And that's what the whole film is about, the conflict between that manner and these brutal actions.
So these kidnappers being, the people at Jerry Lundegaard.
It's Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare, yeah.
Yeah. This is fantastic knowledge. I knew Steve Buscemi.
But nobody knows how to pronounce his surname.
But everyone, I mean, something that's presented, and I think this is what the first series of the TV program Fargo is about. And I don't want to give any spoilers away because I do want anyone.
Spoil the film, but not the series.
Yeah, I do want anyone who hasn't seen it to go and watch it because I think it's great. And I'll get on to some of the conflict I have having seen it and then rewatching Fargo. But it's all about that. There are basically predators, and there are basically there are humans and there are predators. And it's quite, I think William H. Macy's character is one of the only characters who's not one of the two. Maybe the father-in-law, who again, I forgot what a brilliant character and actor and performance that is. But the father-in-law, what's his name? I've got it written down somewhere. Maybe I don't. Anyway, I can look it up, I'm sure. But I forgot, he just doesn't, he just goes, it's too much money. And he has to be convinced by his kind of advisor.
So too much money.
And William H. Macy.
For the ransom.
Too much money
to
to ransom.
his daughter. He doesn't care.
Which kind of plays out again in recent films, such as All the Money in the World.
Oh, yes.
Which came out recently, and the TV show Trust, which is based on the Getty conspiracy. Where
it's of course, Fargo is based on true events.
Which someone I know believed that completely, and I was like, yeah, but it's not really. And
well, it could well be.
It's not.
No, but I mean, I know it's not, but the story, there are stranger than fiction stories.
They were convinced.
Yeah.
They were like, but it's based on a true story.
Well, William H. Macy thought it was until he spoke to the Coens and was like, I just want to read the case study from this. I want to understand this a bit more. And they were like, oh yeah, this is a lie. This is all fiction. This first. By the way, I love that first line. And I love it when it comes up on the TV show every single time. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I just love for the sake of this is everything you see is true story. Yeah,
something like that.
To honor the dead, the survivors' names have been changed, something like that.
Yeah. But all other actions have remained the same.
Yeah.
Everything else has remained the same. Well, I think Tom, Deborah, host of Guilty Feminist and Global Pillage.
I've met her.
And your wife.
That's how you've met her.
I remember Mum telling me a story that I remember my mother, who's very good friends with Deborah, telling me a story about 10 years after Fargo coming out, that she had to calm Deborah down afterwards and say...
If we've got time for this, Fargo also has a special place in my heart because Deborah and I had only just started going out. And there was a thing which happened, I think, for a couple of years in the UK around this time. What year was Fargo? Is it 96? So I think it was probably 96, 97. There was some kind of thing called National Cinema Day. Right. And on National Cinema Day, all tickets for all films in all cinemas were £1 in order to try and get people to go to the cinema. And what I realised, and presumably other people did as well, but not very many, was the cinemas which had participated in this, all they'd done was change the prices for those days, for that day's showings, to £1. They made no other changes to their systems. And what that meant was you could still, in those days, ring up and book tickets, even though they were only £1. So I booked us 5 films to go and see that day. And we made a whole day of it. Nice. And Fargo was, I think, the 4th. I think it was the penultimate one we saw.
Do you remember what else is on that list?
James and the Giant Peach.
Okay.
Remember it fondly.
Sense and Sensibility. Secrets and Lies.
Oh.
And it maybe we didn't get to the 5th in the end. I can't remember what it was now. Definitely those 4.
I think
after
Fargo, you're like, well, we've done the best.
Yes. But I remember Deborah just genuinely being affected by that, which I'm sure is exactly the reason why that quote is there. I'm sure that's exactly what it's intended to do. What a good movie will do generally is try to put you in the shoes of the protagonists. But the Coen Brothers technique often is slightly distancing, a little bit like Kubrick. They don't involve you in the action the way that, say, Spielberg does. And so this may have been a counter to that. This is going to be shot in this rather clinical way. You're going to be distracted by these funny accents. You're going to have people like even Marge, who don't always react with as much warmth and empathy as you might expect, who can survey the scene of this double murder at the beginning and treat it very calmly and very professionally. She keeps her...
And she's heavily pregnant at this point.
She's heavily pregnant, yes. So you first see her throwing up at the beginning. You think it's because of the horror of the scene that she's witnessing, and it's just morning sickness. It's a lovely little feint. But she saves all her empathy for her husband. Yeah. She doesn't bring it to work. And so to counter that, if you keep reminding yourself, oh, this is true, this really happened, and then imagine how terrified Jerry's wife must have been. Sure. Then you can't help but get involved. I'm sure that's the reason why they did it.
So the opening text is, "This is a true story. The events depicted in this film took place in Minnesota in 1987. At the request of the survivors, the names have been changed. Out of respect for the dead, the rest has been told exactly as it occurred." And I do love that. And I love the way they play it on the TV show as well. Obviously the date and the locations changed, but Helen, what are your thoughts on Fargo?
Oh, I love it. I think it's brilliant. I probably think it's their best film.
More so than... No, well, carry on. I want to throw some more Coen Brothers films later.
I do. I think it's their best work. And I think... I don't know how many times I've seen it, quite a lot, but you just get so much out of it each time you watch it, and each time's kind of a little bit of a different experience, because once you've got past the not true story and kind of the horror, it's really, really funny as well. It's hilarious. It's really bizarre as well, and the cast's great, and just the way it's directed as well, the snowy landscapes, the blood, it's brilliant.
This is a Roger Deakins film. So
now an Oscar winner.
Yeah, now Oscar winner. Yeah. So, obviously he's outstanding. He's done a lot of work with the Coen Brothers, and this is, I think, one of the first things he shot with them. It looks amazing. It is.
I rewatching it as well, I was just noticing so many things. It's so white, and that and the colours are very dull. And at first I thought that might be because it's kind of the 90s cameras it was filmed on, but no, it is just grey white in the cities, and then just really white. And there are so many cars in it. Cars are I'm not intelligent enough to work out why, because it's a Coen Brothers film. But there's a scene where William H. Macy is trying to convince his father-in-law and the business associate to give him money over. And it's in a cafe, and behind them there's just a freeway. And my eyes were just drawn to this freeway. And I don't know why it really kind of affected me. I couldn't work out. There's something quite inscrutable about it. Somebody might have read something or know why this was done. But I mean, did anyone else notice that? the kind of
Not really,
themes.
not apart from
the car park,
I mean, now you say it because obviously Jerry is a car salesman.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
And the car was stolen. He stole the car off his lot. That a lot of the driver for the story is that he stole his own company's car off the lot to then use that for
with its dealer plates.
Yeah.
Yes, dealer plates. I mean, that's Marge's first moment of kind of where you see that she's not this slightly bumbling, silly
village cop.
Yeah.
Simple in the sense of just a kind of small town cop. Yeah. But something I will say, actually, I'll let you talk about favorite Coen Brothers films.
Oh, no, I was just going to say one of my favourite moments in it, which the only note I wrote down was about the 3-cent stamp. So basically her husband is entered his bird painting for the competition to be on the stamp, and he gets the 3-cent stamp. And, he sort of said, it's only the 3-cent stamp, say it right. And she's like, oh no, they need the little ones to do that. So that's one of my favourite bits.
So he's talking about the compassion that she holds for her husband. I mean, you said there's horror in there, and there's comedy as well. I mean, how do they do it? I mean, a lot of the comedy comes from, is it mocking? I don't say it's mocking the accents, but you enjoy the accent, the Minnesota kind of vibe. But there's a lot of things with Jerry
Lundegaard.
Jerry Lundegaard, like trying to fob off the insurance company by like fudging the fax numbers and stuff like that. No, it's all right. I'll send it through. Don't you worry about it. But then, even when Jerry's in the wood chipper, Steve Buscemi's being wood chipped down. That's also a funny scene, but also quite horrific because you just see his like leg bouncing away as the blood's kind of splattering out.
It's all about that dichotomy, though. It's all about this accent of somebody kind of fudging his wife's kidnapping and just oh my God, this can happen anyway. The real true story. This can happen anyway. I wonder how they came up. Do you know how they came up with Minnesota as a location?
Well, I mean, they're from there. So that's part of it. And I think they did feel that it hadn't been seen on screen before. But I think as well, I think when they started conceiving of some of these plot ideas, they started to realize this is funnier and more interesting if it's said in one of these accents. Yeah. And nobody does it better than William H. Macy. Yeah. As Jerry becomes increasingly sweaty and panicky, and as you were saying, like exactly continuing to try and reassure people. And that really does bring. We live in an age now where the Coen Brothers are sort of part of the cinematic landscape, but they were just like beginning to be real cinematic forces at this time. I think this was the first of their films that really got a lot of notice at places like the Academy Awards. It was their 5th, something like that.
It might have even been a little bit earlier because there was Blood Simple before this.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Raising Arizona. But
look at those two films as calling cards. Yeah. I mean, in their different ways, I think they're both brilliant. But if you're trying to define the Coen Brothers style, and you say, so they started with Blood Simple, then they made Raising Arizona. I mean, those look like two totally different styles of filmmaking. But I think this is what a lot of their later films do, like Barton Fink, like in some ways The Big Lebowski. It is combining those two elements. It's combining the quirky characters, often quite big characterizations, big acting styles of Raising Arizona, with the crime thriller plot and the unflinching brutality that you see in Blood Simple.
And unflinching brutality at No Country for Old Men.
Oh, yes.
How can the same people that wrote Hail Caesar and the director Hail Caesar be the guys behind No Country for Old Men? That makes no sense, but that's how...
They have made some absolute hammers, haven't they? Look at those.
Inside Llewellyn Davis as well. I keep forgetting that's their fit.
Miller's Crossing, which I haven't seen for years either. This isn't the film we're talking about, and I know it'll be controversial. I think Big Lebowski's fine.
Oh,
it's fine.
I remember being slightly disappointed by Big Lebowski, having loved Fargo so much, and having previously watched and enjoyed Barton Fink. I remember thinking, I think Big Lebowski grew on me a bit more with subsequent reviewings. But I remember my first experience of it was a bit, is that...
It's a stoner comedy, though. Yeah. It works much better when you're stoned.
So I think Fargo. So this is something else. So something else I forgot about Fargo, and I don't think this works as well for repeat viewings. But I remembered how terrified I was.
Oh, really?
That she was going to be killed.
Ah.
How unsettling that was. And
Jerry's wife or Frances McDormand?
Frances McDormand. How terrified I was Marge Gunderson was going to get killed.
You were still watching it as a thriller by then.
Yeah, and then the thing that made me remember how scared I was the fact that I kept saying to myself, well, I know she's going to be fine. I'm not sure. It is deeply unsettling, the fact that you have seen these characters kill with such impunity, with so little regard, and there is a pregnant woman who is going to catch them, or who is trying to catch them. You don't know. The way the film is made, it's not shot, because it's shot so unconventionally, because it has this non sequitur scene where she goes to this drink with an old school friend, that you don't see it as a standard. I certainly don't see it as a standard cop catches bad people film. I saw it as, I viewed it as a thriller, but I didn't think it would go that way. I didn't think that she would end up, spoiler alert, she would end up winning.
You generally don't know. And that is, well, because the Coens have said that they don't like to plot a story out before they start writing the script, which is not the usual advice given. And I think that does have the benefit in their best films, and I'd certainly include Fargo in that list, that as the story does unfold, it does it in a very organic way, and things don't feel forced and having to fish into nice, neat patterns. And if they do feel like following her as she goes to this meeting that has nothing to do with the main plot, that's fine. But the characters continue to behave in ways that are true to themselves, and then the plot does resolve. But I think there are other films where, for me at any rate, they do run out of ideas about halfway through. I think the worst example of that for me is probably The Man Who Wasn't There, which has got a cracking first half hour and then just sort of spirals.
I don't think I've seen it.
I've seen it, but I think I've only seen it once and I don't really remember that much.
No, I think towards the end they just go, oh, listen, you know what? Let's just have a flying saucer land.
Oh, yeah.
Fine.
So, no spoilers for some of the TV series. But,
yes, indeed.
Something I will say, though, and I am going to criticise it because we have been heaping praise after praise on it. After watching the TV series, I felt that it was much thinner than I remembered. Because...
So the Coens really should have taken into account the television series that was going to be made 12 years later.
Yes.
When they were writing and directing the film.
Beef out the story.
They inspired entirely from their innovative filmmaking style. It's not necessarily a criticism, but...
Well, as you said, it's not a long film, is it? It is quite lean.
It is.
And in this day of sort of,
it's great
bloated 2-hour plus CGI fuckathon epics, that's no bad thing in my book.
I'm not saying that it's thin in that sense. I tell you, the way I think it's thin is that I think it is too heartless. The characters are too evil, and there is not the same heart I find you get from a TV series.
They don't write a lot of warm characters, it's true. I'm trying to think who is the kind of warmest, nicest character.
I don't think they're evil, though. I just think they're stupid. They're not that clever to be kind of evil and sort of...
I think Peter Stormare's character's evil. I think the other characters are stupid, but I think they're meant to be... I think that Steve Buscemi, William H. Macy, just generally... The bad, even the father-in-law, they're meant to be stupid. I think that Peter Stormare's character is thrown in as a kind of, these characters think they're playing one game. They think that the stakes are this level, and Peter Stormare just doesn't care. He doesn't care about the money. I mean, their line, what is this for? Why did he even do it? No, Peter Stormare doesn't care about the money. He doesn't care about anything.
And he ultimately kills him over the car, isn't it? Wants to buy the money over the car. When, by all accounts, they could have walked away quite happily out of the deal, and never would have been. And he wouldn't have been caught. And he doesn't. Why does he kill her? Why does he kill the wife? Yeah, she was just annoying. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You're annoying. I've got a gun. There's any more this is going to end. Which I think is great. And talking about it, it is great. But I do think first two series of Fargo that I've seen, there is a bit more of depth to the heart of it, which I think highlights just how light a touch they apply.
and this might be my failing as a viewer, as a millennial viewer who likes things hammered into me, who likes, 3-hour fuckathons. Well, no, different.
CG fuckathons.
CGI. Well, even then sounds a bit weird.
But the spoilers for the TV series, so you can cut this out if you want. But what I found interesting about, especially the first series, is the way that the Martin Freeman character, who's sort of the stand-in for the William H. Macy character, over whatever it is, 10 episodes, begins as this low-status, put-upon, cheerful, but loser character.
Yeah.
And then through the events of the series, he grows this sort of hard carapace, and he doesn't learn how to be open and warm. On the contrary, he learns to care less.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. That's a bit of character development you don't often see.
He kind of actually turns into Peter Stormare's character towards the end.
But unlike Peter Stormare, who just looks like a psychopath, he still knows how to wear the face of of Minnesota Nice.
I think it's time to go into the scoring. We'll still discuss this over the scores.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
These are our famous Flixwatcher scores. They're all out of 5. If you'd like to go for a decimal place, you can. And we will start with you, Ned, with the recommendability score.
I would give it 5. I'd give it 5. You've got to see Fargo. A, it's a classic. B, it's exciting. C, it's original. I mean, it's got all the things. Even if you don't like it, you should just see it so you can talk about why you don't like it. But I can't imagine many people disliking it. So I'd give it 5.
Tom?
Certainly high. I think if I'm allowed a decimal place, I think I'll probably go 4.5. It's very good. I would recommend it. Is it a film we'll still be talking about in 20, 30, 40 years' time? I think it's got a lot of competition there. It's very good, but it's not maybe an absolute cast iron perfect classic.
Helen?
I was going to say, just before I give my score, a favourite Coen Brothers film?
Oh, that's a good point.
I've got a very soft spot for The Hudsucker Proxy. Whether it's better than Fargo,
for kids,
is debatable. But I love that film. And actually, thinking about warm characters in Coen Brothers movies, Tim Robbins is so appealing in that, and that's playing so many different games. It's doing fantasy and it's riffing on screwball comedies of the 1940s, and it's playing around with time, and I adore that film. But it is one that a lot of Coen Brothers fans like everything except The Hudsucker Proxy.
This is good though. You don't want everything to be straight down the line.
The first time they had a budget, and a lot of people thought, "What are you doing with a budget? Go away."
I'm just looking at the filmography. I think probably Fargo, but there are films.
Miller's Crossing as well, I think, is just phenomenally good.
I worked on Secret Cinema Miller's Crossing, so I watched that quite a lot of that. Well, 4 nights a week from March to sort of the end of May.
What's the set design and production design of Miller's Crossing? I can't remember it. Does it require people?
It was at Hornsey Town Hall in Crouch End.
But what were people wearing and what was the set?
So it was kind of prohibition-y, gangstery kind of stuff. It was brilliant. It was one of the best secret cinemas I've ever worked on. It was fantastic.
I think I need to rewatch it.
Looking at it, I remember loving Blood Simple, absolutely loving it, but I haven't seen it in such a long time, I can't comment really. I forgot that they directed a film which must be one of my least favourite films of all time.
Burn After Reading?
No, I love Burn After Reading. I was going to say, actually, Burn After Reading is a classic. No Country for Old Men, I think, suffers from worse than this, suffers from a lack of heart. But the spoiler alert, the twist that the main character isn't the main character you think it is, I still think about and think it's just a brilliant thing.
They have committed one appalling crime against cinema.
What's that?
Which is they attempted to, and I say attempted because it's a spectacular failure on every level. They attempted to remake The Lady Killers.
Yeah, I was going to say part of their cinematic canon is not just directing and producing, is actually writing the script and handing it off. They didn't.
I know they directed it.
Did they put that? Yeah. I thought it was one of the ones they.
No, it's shockingly bad.
Because Suburbicon is one of their screens.
Yeah, and they did some script polish work on Bridge of Spies as well. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Intolerable Cruelty, which I know divides people, but I remember watching it probably about 4 years ago, and just because I'm like, oh, it's a Coen Brothers film. Why have I never watched this? And I should have watched Miller's Crossing instead.
Do you guys know the story about the Garfield movie?
No.
So very quickly, there's a movie about Garfield, like a CGI Garfield, which is one of the worst movies anyone's ever made.
Jason Lee as Brian.
I can't remember. What I do remember
Jason Lee.
Voiced by Bill Murray.
Bill Murray does the voice of Garfield. A lot of people wondered why Bill Murray would do the voice of Garfield, and the reason is that the director of the film is one Joel Coen, Cohen, who is no relation to either Joel or Ethan Coen, Coen, but that was the only reason why Bill Murray took the job. And it was only when he was like halfway through recording his lines he realised his mistake.
Oh my God. That is amazing.
Began to dawn on him this wasn't quite the intricately quirky comedy that the Coen brothers were known for.
That would be a Garfield to watch, though, wouldn't it?
I would watch that. I would watch the hell out of that.
So what you're saying is
Fargo. It's got to be Fargo.
Yeah. Helen?
Back to the scores. 5.
Well, you haven't said your favourite Coens.
Well, I definitely think Fargo is their best one. I can't... Fargo's very close. I also like the most recent one with Oscar Isaacs in it.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's particularly one of their strongest ones.
It's Hail Caesar, isn't it?
Well, one of the more recent ones. I think definitely their 90s films are what I enjoy more. I've become I didn't really like Hail Caesar that much and I didn't really like Burn After Reading that much either. So I think, I don't know, I'm not liking them less and less with each release. But
I liked A Serious Man. That was one of theirs.
Yeah.
That came out most recently. Yes, introduced me to Michael Stuhlbarg,
Yeah.
Exactly, who is just the most phenomenal actor.
It was my MVP of last year.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning.
Was he in 3 Best Picture nominee films?
So he was in Call Me by Your Name, and that scene at the end is I don't like Call Me by Your Name as much as other people, but that scene is like still just like
and The Shape of Water.
Shape of Water.
Was he in one more as well?
No, but he was in season 3 of Fargo.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he is. Yes.
Watch it.
Yeah. And it's phenomenal. It's fantastic in that.
Okay,
Yeah, so I would say I'll give it a 4.5, maybe just a touch under 4.4. Maybe just because I think I really love Big Lebowski, and I think it's high. I rate it higher than that. It's all right. It's everyone's opinion here, and I haven't seen No Country for Old Men, but I really, really want to see it again. It really had a massive impact on me when I saw it. The first time seeing Javier Bardem
with a comb over.
With a comb. Just ever, but yeah, I've never seen him with a comb over since. So 4.4.
Because he's a completely different villain in Skyfall. He's not,
It's called acting.
He's a chatty, but not everyone's as good at that.
It's a good acting.
John Dorney on our podcast told a story about Jim Broadbent, who had the good fortune to be in 2 films of the same year, Iris and Moulin Rouge, giving 2 totally different performances. And I can't remember, I think it was Jim Broadbent himself who said this. He said the huge advantage of doing this in 1 year is people who don't know what they're talking about see you do these 2 different things and they think, well, one of those must be acting.
Jim Broadbent is amazing, actually.
Yeah. Oh, I love him, yeah. Especially in Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
Very peculiar that he's in Game of Thrones as such a throwaway
That's
character. It's so random.
It's just like, he's not, he doesn't have a name, he's Jim Broadbent.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Repeat viewing score, Ned.
I would say, you know what? I don't like giving full marks to things, but I'd give it a 5.
You gave full marks in the previous round.
Yeah, so doing it twice is, but it's short.
How many times have you seen it?
I've seen it 3 times now.
Yeah.
I saw it once years and years ago. I saw it once a few weeks ago. And then I kind of I rewatched 2.5 times. I rewatched half of it and went through getting time checks for when she turns up. And then I found myself watching it.
You got yourself Shawshanked.
Yeah, it was, so I'd say 5 because it's short enough that you don't sit there through boring there isn't a wasted minute either, really. And there's just so much to see in it. It's weird for such a short, lean film, but there's so many layers to it. There's a comedy, there's a cinematography, there's just the ambiguity of it. So I'd say fun.
And there's still time for those scenes which end up nowhere.
Yeah.
Which is still actually one of my favourite scenes, when she meets her ex-schoolmate and he tries to sit next to her.
I think everyone remembers it. I think everyone remembers that scene from the film, and it's because and I don't think many people criticise it.
Because you think if this was a 2-hour film and you think they could have cut it down to an hour and a half, that would be one of those scenes that. But in the short film, you think this is actually fine.
Yeah.
Tom,
I think it does depend on its thriller plot. I think the first time you watch it, it's going to have more of an impact for that reason.
Right.
You are going to be in suspense. You're not going to know what's going to happen next. But I agree with Ned. I think there is a lot of other character stuff going on there as well. I think it probably would repay repeated watching. So I think I'll probably go for 4.
Helen.
Well, from a personal point of view, I mean, I've probably seen it between about 10 and 15 times,
Wow.
I think. I've lost count how many times I've seen it. I hadn't seen it.
This is quite late, isn't it? Because we've talked about films you see when you were a kid growing up and you just had like 3 or 4 VHS, or it was always on TV. And this wasn't one of those films. It was kind of when DVDs kind of started to come out. So you perhaps had the.
I either had it, I must have had it on video and then perhaps switched to DVD later on. But I've seen it loads. I haven't seen it probably in a good few years. I really enjoyed watching it, and it is an hour and a half, so it zips by. I'd watch it again, so I'm going to give it a 5.
I'm going to go 4.8 here. It's so the 90 minutes time frame comes up time and time again in this, and I just saw A Quiet Place, and that's 90 minutes. And I was just like, that's fine.
Do admire your precision.
Yeah.
4.8.
Yeah. We've had more extravagant.
Precisely calibrated.
We've had more extravagant scoring systems.
I'm going to give it, for small screen, I'm going to give it a score of pi.
You'll be the third person to have pi.
No, I'm not going to give it pi. I'm not going to give it pi.
We'll go for small screen score. Ned.
So I never saw it in the cinema.
Yeah.
I'd say 3.8.
3.8. Do you want an explanation of the small screen score, Tom?
So is the question, does this lose anything on the small screen?
Yeah. Kind of. Do you feel you missed out by not seeing it in the cinema?
I think maybe 3.5 actually.
Right.
Because of when it was filmed, I think that, and comparing it to the TV program, which I think holds up very well on the small screen, I think the lack of HD cameras and stuff like that to really get to make it the white that much whiter, because it's only one colour, for me affects it. But not a lot, but just, and I would say that I wouldn't say to someone, watch it on a big screen, but it's more compared to if I'd seen it in a cinema. Yeah. I think I would have been so engaged.
Tom?
Yeah, it's funny because so much of the cinematography is just white. It's more about the scale than picking out the details. On the other hand, a lot of what is happening in this movie is what's happening between the characters rather than the spectacle. I think I'll go 4. I don't think it loses an awful lot. Obviously better in the cinema, as almost everything would be. And Roger Deakins' cinematography does deserve to be seen. So, it depends how small your small screen is.
Don't watch it on your phone.
Or how close you are to the screen.
Yes.
Helen?
I'm going to give it a 4. I've only ever watched it on the small screen, and I've never really considered the difference between it. I guess it would have been nice just to have seen it at the cinema anyway, just for the pleasure of the cinema. But I don't think it loses anything. And I think that maybe if you're coming to it, perhaps being familiar with the TV series more so than the film, then you're already watching kind of the small screenness. And because it's kind of small town, kind of small characters, it just seems to work quite well.
I'm going to go for a 4 as well. I think the fact is Roger Deakins, it looks great, but as you say, I think the majority of the driving of the story does come from the interplay within the characters and the scripting and everything. I think if it was to come on Prince Charles, I'd go and see it. But I don't think particularly you need to see it. You don't feel that you're missing out.
Pay more than £3.50 to see it.
I'm hoping for another cinema day so I can go and see 5 films for £1.
Yeah, they stopped doing that after the second year. I think the second year wasn't as successful, maybe because I'd started an unfortunate trend and it wasn't repeated for a third year.
Engagement score, Ned.
So just the engagement scored, how engaging it. You don't get distracted by your phone and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd give it a. You know what? I tell you what. I think I'll give it 4.5. I think I'll give it 4.5 because when I watched it the other day, I got distracted, not as much as I thought, and it's not very long as we keep saying. But, a few times I was had stuff, check my phone, blah, blah, blah. But then when I was rewatching bits of it, yes, as I say, I've kind of seen it 2.5 times. I just got drawn in by it. I was just like, oh, maybe I'll just carry on watching VC. Oh, I forgot how good this scene was. Oh, I forgot this. So I'd say I'd give it a good 4.5 for that.
Tom?
I think this is a film that could split people. If I imagine somebody coming to this film, maybe a younger person who hadn't seen it before, I think there are things that could be off-putting. I think the accents could be off-putting. I think the fact there's nobody nice in the movie could be off-putting. I think the fact that it does have this slightly odd structure, it does keep cutting away, once or twice cuts away to things that don't really seem to be relevant to anything else. That wasn't my experience of watching it for the first time. When I watched it for the first time, I was glued to my seat. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. So I think for me, 4.5. But I would perfectly understand someone watching this for the first time going, no, mate, what are you talking about?
I get what you say about that because there's a lot of very mundane moments in it, and that's part of the brilliance. But I guess maybe if you're used to a CGI 3 hour fuck-a-thon, then you might not get down with this. I mean, it's weird because I actually thought when I was like, I've got to watch Fargo again, I thought I would be kind of less engaged because I'd seen it so many times, but I was really engaged in it. I was like, I've kind of forgotten this a little bit. I knew this bit was coming. This bit is really, really good. So I'm going to give it 5.
I'm going to give it a 4.3. I think the first time I watched it, less than you guys, I just didn't get it. And it's only with subsequent views, I'm like, oh shit, it's funny.
Again, seeing it with an audience helps.
Yeah, this is part of the cinematic thing. Yeah. And I think I think I prefer the TV show, how they've done the TV series over the film. Yeah, definitely.
Really?
So I'd like the way the story pans out. And it's different.
You just get more of it. It's a great thing, and you get more of it.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. That's why I love TV.
But like you say yourself, Helen, each time I watch it, I'm like, I forget something's going to happen. I forget how she runs out of the car with a bag over her head, which is both hilarious and tragic. Yeah. I forgot how Steve Buscemi meets his end. Again, hilarious and tragic. And then I remember some other things. So yeah, there's lots of things you're waiting for, but then there's other things you forget come along. Yeah. 4.3. And that gives us... Oh!
Have we got a new winner?
No.
This is so close.
4.47.
That must be second though.
What's the winner?
At the moment, it's What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh.
It's very high.
Which a film I didn't enjoy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it.
Good job you weren't in the booth then. I think Hunt for the Wilder People's high up there as well.
Yeah. This is pretty high. Yeah. 4.46.
Hunt for the Wilder People is 4.1. So yeah, this is higher. If you go into our website, guys, when this comes out, you can see the rankings on the overall top scoring page. You can find out exactly where they are. It
is a shame we're not doing Jupiter Ascending because that would...
So we reached out to guys on Twitter. Told us that we said we reached out to the guys on Twitter and we said, we're reviewing Fargo, have you seen it? We'd love to hear your thoughts and include them in our podcast Flixwatcher. If you've seen it, give us your 5-star review, your 5-star rating, a short review, and to retweet and all that malarkey. So we got quite a decent response from this one. Tom, do you want to take the top response here?
What were they thinking? At WWT Podcast says, love everything about this movie, Coen Brothers classic.
5 stars.
5 stars from them.
We didn't even speak about Frances McDormand winning an Oscar for quite a relatively short performance and a very offbeat performance.
I think, I mean, you do
not
talk
a
about
biopic.
that she comes on later in the film, but once she's in it, she's in it front and centre. And people have won for less screen time, haven't they?
Yeah. I think Judi Dench won for kind of
3 minutes.
A cough or something.
Best supporting actor. This has actually just come up on our podcast because one of the contenders for best actor, shortest screen time, is Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. But actually, I think the record is David Niven in a film called Separate Tables.
Well,
It's very much an ensemble, and he's on screen for about 22 minutes.
Had Network, and best supporting actress for that was incredibly short.
Yeah,
she's
like
on the
3
screen
minutes.
for like 3 minutes.
Across like,
I think
that was a winner.
And the other thing I remember is, I think the absolute record for an acting nomination is Hermione Baddeley in Room at the Top, who's on screen for just over 2 minutes. But didn't win.
Ned, do you want to take the next one down? These guys, skip to the end.
Skip to the end. STTE podcast. Weirdly, it's a rewatch on our latest episode. 5 stars all day long. A true masterpiece of a movie. Or Death by Film. Should I do Death by Film pod? Set 5 stars. Should have been Deacon's first Oscar.
Helen, Jim Bob SquarePants.
But not his @ title, so that's Jim Bob SquarePants at Vintage GT. A superb movie with infinite rewatchability. Is that a word? Well, we say yes. I love it. I always have since I first saw it. 5 stars.
Yeah. And last one, if you want to watch this podcast, I can't be bothered. This is my favourite. This is my favourite Coen Brothers film. 1 million stars. That's blokes
out of how many stars?
Yeah, exactly. McDormand is clearly the best. Always love Craig. It didn't say love. It's just a hype.
Just added the love.
You love Craig.
So yeah, they're giving it between 4 and 5. Well, 5 stars. Everyone there gave 5 stars.
I think it does bring out those feelings in people.
Yeah.
I think it's a film that, because it's quite weird, people are very happy raving about it.
Yeah. But like I think, Tom, you raised the point there. If you're a bit younger and you perhaps don't understand, you maybe don't know what you're getting into, or you're not that kind of mindset, then this is just an odd, jarring film.
You don't confuse it for any other film, do you? You don't think, was that? No, that's Fargo. No, you know that was Fargo. It's really, really clear in what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, can you just let people know where they can find you online on Twitter or websites and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'm at Tom Salinsky, and you can also follow at Best Pick Pod to find out about our Oscar journey. That's Best Pick Podcast at Best Pick Pod or bestpickpod.com on the website.
You can get me at Ned Sedgwick on Twitter. And you can download BBC's Grownup Land on iTunes or the BBC website, and you can download Global Pillage on iTunes and Her Majesty's Internet.
Does she own it? I knew she owned it.
Yep.
I'll tell you where you can't get Global Pillage is Alexa, and she doesn't even recognise it. She was like, sorry, we don't have Global Pillage. I'm like, that's not what I said.
Is Flixwatcher on Alexa?
I didn't ask that.
What? How dare you?
Clear where your loyalties truly lie.
I'll ask her tonight.
I think it may have something to do with our podcast host, which is different for Guilty Feminist and Global Pillage. So I will investigate that.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. You were just listening to the latest episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Thank you to Brendan Russell for his sublime editing skills, Mighty People for the tunes you can hear right now. Please do come to iTunes and find us, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod and our website, flixwatcher.tv.
Episodes on our website, flixwatcher.tv. Want to give us your 5-star review? Follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter. Big shout out to our editor, Brendan Russell, for all his awesome editing skills. And thanks as always to the mighty people for their tunes.